Doctor, is sourdough bread good for people with diabetes? If you are asking this question for yourself because you have diabetes and if you are wondering if sourdough bread is good for you, then this video is for you. In this video, I will be going through 3 questions with you to help you come to an answer to this question in a way that is more specific to you. Welcome to another episode of The Habits Pharmacy, where habits become medicine. I am Dr. Chan, your host. Doctor, is sourdough bread good for people with diabetes? It's a question I get asked often by my patients at my clinic or participants at my Habits as Medicine coaching programs. If you have diabetes and you are also asking this question, can I suggest you first refine this question to Doctor, I have diabetes. Would switching to sourdough bread help me achieve better blood sugar control? How much sourdough bread can I have in my diet? Making the question more specific to you and not just to people with diabetes in general. And then answer the next 3 questions that I'm going to ask you in this video. But before that, let's talk a bit about sourdough bread to set the context. Sourdough bread has a slightly lower GI than most breads, and therefore is a relatively better choice for people with diabetes who enjoy breads. But it is important to remember that eating sourdough bread will still raise blood sugar, albeit usually to a lesser degree than most other breads. Therefore, people with diabetes or people who are concerned about blood sugar spikes for whatever other reasons should be mindful of this fact. I covered the topic of sourdough bread, its glycemic index or GI, and its impact on blood sugar in great detail in this video. I shall leave the link in the notes below. So, if the question is asked like this, a general one about sourdough bread and people with diabetes in general and not specific to you, then the answer is sourdough bread is a relatively good choice for people with diabetes in general. But if you were to ask the question this way, that although this question is similar in some way to the previous question, this time it is more specific to you and not just a question about sourdough bread for people with diabetes in general, then I would suggest you first ask yourself these 3 questions. Number 1, how severe is your diabetes? People with severe diabetes has a much lower tolerance to glucose or carbohydrates than people with mild diabetes. So you need to be cognizant of this fact. So even though sourdough bread is generally a relatively okay choice for bread for people with diabetes, its impact on your blood sugar and how much sourdough bread you can have is also dependent on the severity of your diabetes condition. Question 2, how well controlled is your blood sugar? Regardless of the severity of your diabetes, you should and can still maintain good blood sugar control through lifestyle and diet modifications, medications, or both. But if your current state of blood sugar control is poor, you should not expect to be able to get your blood sugar under optimal or even just adequate control simply by making the switch from higher GI breads to the slightly lower GI sourdough breads. Third question that you should ask yourself is this: how is your current overall dietary pattern? You should assess your current eating habits comprehensively. Are you currently having excessive amounts of carbohydrates or starchy foods in your diet? Are you taking too much sugar? Are you not having enough vegetables? If your current eating habit, your current dietary pattern is overall poor and is causing you to have very poor blood sugar control, then your focus should first be on modifying and improving your overall diet holistically. In such a situation, adding or switching to sourdough breads in your diet may not be or even should not be that high on your priority. So, these are the 3 questions you should ask yourself. Number 1, how severe is your diabetes? The impact of sourdough bread on your blood sugar would be greater if your diabetes is more severe. Number 2, how is your blood sugar control? Is it poorly controlled? If it is, then even though switching from high GI breads to the slightly lower GI sourdough breads may be helpful to some degree, it is probably not going to be enough to bring your poorly controlled blood sugar under optimal or even just adequate control. Number 3, how is your current diet overall? Is your overall diet obviously poor and you have many other areas of your diet that are clearly affecting your blood sugar control? Are you taking too much sugar? Are you having excessive amounts of carbohydrates? Are you not having adequate amounts of vegetables. If you are clearly poor in these critical areas, then tackling them may be a lot more important and should be higher up in your priority than deciding whether sourdough bread is good for you or not. From your answers to these three questions, you can then better answer the question about whether sourdough bread is good for diabetes or not in a way that is relevant and, more importantly, more specific to you, your diabetes condition, your current blood sugar control, and your current dietary priorities. I hope you have found this useful. Let habits be thy medicine. I'm Dr. Chan. Eat well and be well.